And we have begun the recording. So we have convened today. It is August 9th, 2023. This is Yoel Cortex, Senior Librarian at Ex Libris, and this is part of the Alma 2023 Roadmap webinar series. I will share the screen right now. Share screen. Okay, so this is part of the Alma 2023 Roadmap webinar series. And we have already shown several different parts and themes of the Alma 2023 Roadmap webinar series, as you can see on the screen here. For all of the sessions, we have information about the specific topic, also a link to the recording. And today we are August 9th, the new user interface for customizing letters in Alma. You have here a link to a video on this, also to a PowerPoint presentation. I will briefly be showing the PowerPoint presentation today. However, primarily, we will be looking at Alma, inside Alma, showing the actual configuration. We're also joined by Yifat Lulav. Thank you for joining us, Yifat, from Alma Development. And if questions come up about development or about any future plans, we will consult also with Yifat. Yifat will also be looking at the chat. I'll be looking at the chat as well. So let's begin. So first of all, the changes that we have here are part of what we call the NEARS request. NEARS, I'm going to pop into NEARS here. This is the NEARS. It stands for the New Enhancement Request System. And there's a series of different development requests which comes in through the NEARS group. And this is one of them. And along the way, we worked with the NEARS group. It's released now, the August 2023 release, which came out this past Sunday. The main feature, which we're going to see as we start looking at it, is what you see is what you get while the user is doing the configurations to the XSL. The XSL, we're going to talk more about that, but that's what determines the format, the alignment, the bold, the underline, the size of the fonts, etc. Also, which fields are and are not included in the letter. While doing the configuration to the XSL, it's possible to see on the spot while doing the configuration how it looks. So it's much easier that way to make the changes and to know that that's the kind of letter we want. So let's jump into Alma now and let's see what's going on here. So I'm in Alma, regular standard August release, same kind of release you all have as well. And we're going to go into the letter configuration. So I'm clicking configuration on the bottom left, general, letters, letter configuration. And this brings us to where we can configure the letters. There's two submenus we're going to see here. Let's actually go back a moment. Two submenus. We've got letters configuration and components configuration. We're going to talk about the components configuration towards the end of the session. Right now, we're on the letters configuration. So let's take a look at this page. I'll make it a little larger, and let's see what we've got here. So the first column here is whether the letter is enabled or not. If the letter is not enabled, for example, this borrowed by letter is not enabled, that means any function in Alma which sends the borrowed by letter will not send this letter because, as you see here, it hasn't been enabled. It can be enabled simply by toggling the enable tab, the enable column, but right now it's not. Then we have channel. Channel is the way a letter is sent. In some cases, a letter can be sent via both email and SMS. For example, the courtesy letter, and you may want to configure them separately. Something that arrives via an SMS as a text message, we will not want the same way. It has a different format than an email. We're going to be concentrating today on letters with a channel of email. Then we have a retention period. The retention period is how long a letter will remain in the attachment tab of a user. Different countries have different laws. Some need to retain these letters for a certain amount of time. Some countries want to get rid of the letters as soon as possible for privacy reasons, and it's the number of days. So for example, here we have the borrowing activity letter. and we have a retention period of 100 days. That means that if we go to a user, I'm going to go to a user now. I'll go to a user via Manage Patron Services, although it really doesn't matter how we go to the user. And in the Attachments tab, any patron-facing letter gets attached to the user details here. So if I go to the attachments, we have here the borrowing activity letter, for example. These borrowing activity letters will be deleted after 100 days. If we were to look through here, we wouldn't see a borrowing activity letter, which is older than 100 days. Every night there's a job that runs. We're just going to go see that job, a job that automatically runs, which purges the letters. So if I come into the history here, for example, and I were to go back for 30 days, last 30 days, I'm in the history tab and look, for example, for letters with purge retention. That's the job that deletes them. So we can see that that runs on a regular basis. It runs once a week. We can see here 14/21/28/04, and that goes and deletes according to the retention period defined for the specific letter. So that's just the initial page. That part is not anything new. That has already existed, but I want to show the whole flow, the whole concept around the letters, and not only what's new. But right now we're going to pop into what's new. So the new part, the new interface, is when we start configuring these letters. And you'll see it's a lot easier now to see what does the letter look like without going to an email and looking for it. And it's also easier to make the changes. So let's take, for example, the borrowing activity letter, which, by the way, is one of the more popular letters. So that's the one I'm using. And I'm saying edit. So now what do we have on our screen here? 3 different panes. Pane, P-A-N-E. So on the top left, we got the XSL, which we'll look at more closely. Then we have the XML. The XSL here on the top left is what determines the format of the letter. Like I mentioned before, is it bold? Is it underlined? What fields are included? Is it aligned to the left, etc.? There can also be conditions in there. Then we have the XML. The XML is the data that goes in the letter, the name of the patron, the item that was on loan, the due date, etc. Then we have here the preview. This is what the letter would look like if it were actually sent to somebody. So we don't need to send it and go look at it and make a change and go send it again, etc. It's right here. All of these panes, all 3 of them, can also be expanded. So for example, if I want to edit the XSL, which we will do very shortly, then I can start editing here, or if this is too small, I can come here, full screen, and then I view it in the full screen. I could also, if for whatever reason I wanted, take the whole letter here and put this, for example, in a Notepad++, edit that any way I wanted to, and then put it back inside. It's really not necessary anymore to do that because now I have a nice screen here and I also have the ability to see my changes as I make them, but it's also possible to do it that way. We're going to talk about these also, save, draft, restore, etc. soon. So that can be expanded. The XML can also be expanded here. The XML can also be downloaded. And we can expand this XML to a full screen as well. We can also change this XML, take the XML based on a real letter that was sent to the patrons. We're going to do that as well. I just want to show first the overall screen here. And then the results of the screen here, the results of the XSL configuration, this can be viewed for just the HTML. There are cases where users want to view the HTML because there are accessibility issues, where there are, for example, screen readers, among other things, screen readers which check the HTML for accessibility issues. So it's also possible to view it in HTML. or visually like this. And this also, if we want to view it larger, rather than a full screen mode, we have open a new tab, and that opens the letter, as the name suggests, in a new tab. So let's begin now making some changes in the XSL editor. I'm just going to pop into the chat for a minute, see if anything came in. And if so, we'll relate to that. Let's see, I'm in the chat and I don't see anything here. Okay, let's just make sure everyone's with us. Just send in someone. If you see my screen and you hear me all right, just send it in. When it gets quiet and there's no chats, I like to make sure that everyone's still with us. So anyone hear me? Anyone see me? Okay, everything's good, people are saying. Thank you for letting us know. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's say, for example, I have this letter here on the right. It's the borrowing activity letter. This is sent either via a job or manually when doing managed patron services. We're going to see how it's sent soon. So let's say I want to make a change here. Maybe, for example, where it says due date, I want to make that red, or I want to make it a different font, the column due date. Now, this letter has two sections of the loans. There's a section called overdue loans, and there's a section called loans. And inside the XSL, there's a condition here for both of those sections. This one, for example, is the overdue loans. And this one here is just the loan section. So let's go change them both. So here we are in the overdue loan section. And we have here the titles, and we have here the actual data. It's a table just like we see here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. So first of all, I'm going to remove this last column, which says check. So I'm going to get rid of that column here, and I'm going to get rid of that column here. And you can see on the bottom here, something is moving. That means it's refreshing. And now if I go take a look, I no longer have that column check because I made the change and I immediately saw it. Now let's change the due date. So we have here where it says due date, and I'm going to change this to have font color equals red. So first I'll make a little space here so I've got some room, and I'll start typing font color equals red. Now notice it automatically added this close font. That's part of the feature of the XSL editor. Whenever a tag is written, it automatically adds the appropriate closing tag. Now we know that that closing tag needs to go after the values. So now we've got font color red, due date, and then we close it. Actually, I need to close this. That's great. This is what I wanted to show later. I made a mistake. I meant to purposely make a mistake later. Now I by accident made a mistake, but that's good. When you make a mistake, my mistake here is that I should have put this font tag before this TH because it needs to be in the same order as it was here. So it tells me I have an error. It tells me the line number and the column number, line number 90, column 86. The element font must be terminated by the matching end tag font, which I don't have. I have it open here and I should have closed it here. So he's telling me exactly what the problem is. Very nice feature. So let's take this and make it correct as he states. And let's let that refresh. Now we got it. Let's go take a look at the letter. And now it changed to red. So we see it. That's the what you see is what you get. As soon as we start doing the change, we see it. Let's come down here and make a change now to the other part of the table. This is the section on overdue loans. This is the section just on loans. Someone asked in the chat if there's an easy way to undo the change. Well, The Control Z works. I did a Control Z now and I no longer have that font. But if I don't save this, we're going to talk more about saving. And I can also save it as a draft. But if I don't save it, I'll still have my original. And I can also click the restore to go back to the original, to go back to the default. So until I save, nothing happens anyway. Let's go make a change also on this section here, which is just the loans, not the overdue loans. Let's say I want this to be centered. Right now we've got loans here, overdue loans, and then we have loans. So maybe I want to center this. So I can come along here and say, center. Now watch what's going to happen when I close this tag. It automatically added the close tag. That's part of the editor, and I'll put that in here. Let's see what happens now. And now the loans is centered. If I'm working on this and I want to save it, but not for everybody right now, I just want to save it as a draft. I want to continue working on it later. I'm about to take my lunch break, or maybe tomorrow I want to continue working on it, or I want to consult with a colleague, but I don't want to lose everything I did here. I don't want to need to copy it all, save it on the side, copy it back, etc. I can save it as a draft. So I'm doing save as draft. And now we can see I clearly know that this is a draft. And now I'm going to go do something else, whatever. And then I come back after my lunch break, or I come back tomorrow and I consult a colleague on it. So now from the list of letters, I can clearly see that this is a draft. It no longer says borrowing activity letter. It says borrowing activity letter XSL draft. Also, you'll see here, when I do edit, it says edit draft. Normally, if I do edit, it just says edit. If I click these three dots, now when I click these three dots, it's edit draft. So I'm going to edit the draft now. And if I decide that this is the letter that I want, everything's good here. I want to keep this letter. Then I can say save. Let's actually make it a little nicer though, because this is going to be my real letter now. So I'm going to make both due dates red bold. So it'll be consistent, the due date in the section for overdue loans and the due date in the section of the regular loans. So we've already got it red here, font color red. And I'll just copy this and put it also in the second section. So that's due date here. I'll copy that due date. And there we go. So now I should have that red bold in both of them. Let's take a look at that. Yes, so now they're all red bold, the resource sharing library, the main library, everything. Okay, and let's center here the overdue loans like we did the regular loans. Just so I have something nice here. So we'll set, just like we did on the other one, we'll say center. That's the loans, and this is the overdue loans. We'll say center, close the tag, and this we'll put after it. Okay. Now it might be, until now, all of the changes that I did, we've kept. It might be that I try to do something and it doesn't work, or I do something and I decide that's not what I want. For example, maybe I want to play around with the size here. And maybe I'm not quite sure how to do it. I'm going to say here, I want this to be H1, and I'm going to close that H1, see what happens here. Let's see. So now on the overdue loans, I changed to a header, but maybe I did it wrong. I don't know. And then I can decide, because it's what you see is what you get. Now it's larger. I think that actually looks good. So I'm going to make the other one also H1, this loans one here. So we'll just change that to H1 as well. And so that's this section here. We'll say H1 here. We'll close the H1. I see a lot of chats coming in. I will relate to them in a moment. I simply want to finish a flow here. And let's look at this now in a new tab so we'll see it more clearly. So here's the letter now after we have played around here. And we would like to remind you of the following at your disposal. This we changed to H1 size. This we made red bold. Oh, this is one from webinars and the influence on the library world. I remember doing that one in one of the examples here. It was during one of these webinars. Okay, so now I decide, okay, I saved this as a draft. I consulted my colleague. I made some changes. I did the what you see is what you get. This is what I want. Now I'm going to save it. So now if I say save here on the top, it's going to take that draft and save it permanently, and it's telling me that because there were some questions during our development of this. All of the developments, saying all is a tough thing. This development for sure, it was done closely with a user group, showing them the progress along the way, getting the feedback, continuing the development, etc. So in order for it to be clear that we're saving the draft as our actual working version, it states here very clearly, are you sure you want to save the XSL draft permanently? The save action will override the current XSL save. So we are saving that. Now, this is the real active letter now. If we were to send this, for example, let's do that. I'm going to say fulfillment, manage patron services, and I will take a patron, that same patron, because she has overdue and do not overdue. And I will send activity report right here. This send activity report is what sends that letter. This user has my email, and that's going to go now into my email. I'm just going to take part of this so I can search my email because I've got all kinds of rules to put these in different folders, etc. So this is now getting sent to me, to my email. Let's go to my email. Okay. And that should arrive very quickly. Always afraid here I'm going to show something incriminating. So let me do that. Here we are. Oh, no, that's a different one. Okay, that will arrive shortly, and then we'll see our changes. Let's just do a search here for a string in the letter. There it is, patron circulation summary, 7:24 a.m. local time. So this is the letter now that we had just edited a moment ago and now has already arrived. And let's double click this and see this. Outlook not responding. Okay, there we go. Now it's back. And we'll take a look. Here's the letter, and it has our changes. The due date is now red bold. This is an H1 centered, and that's our changes. Now, I will stop briefly and check the chat, and then I want to move on because we don't have too much time here. So into the chat, let's see what we got here. I'll make the chat a little larger so I can read, and I'll start at the top. Okay. So someone asked, can changes be undone easily? Until we save, there are no changes. And as we saw, we can save it as a draft. I can't do 20 different changes to the XSL and then say I only want to keep the last 5. But I can save it as a draft. I cannot save it. We saw also I can do Control-A, Control-C, and save it in another file. When you say restored, you mean back to the last save changed or back to the out-of-the-box default? The restore goes back to the out-of-the-box default. And by the way, all of this is in the PowerPoint. I'm going to send out the link to that webinars page that I showed just a moment ago, because on there, on the webinar series page, there's a link to all of the supporting material, including the PowerPoint, which I'm not showing slide by slide, and all of the information is there as well. But Restore goes back to the out-of-the-box version and not your previous version. Someone says, do we need to save if we're changing to the labels tab within the same letter? We're going to talk about the labels in a moment, but you don't need to save the letter. You only need to save the labels. If you change a label, you don't have to go touch the XSL or do any other saves. And that's our next topic. Can you click in the letter example to be taken to the XSL location for that section to edit the portion? Or do you have to find the appropriate section in the XSL? My experience is you have to find the appropriate section in the XSL. It's not that if you hover over it highlights on the other side. Is the draft visible to everyone or just the person who saved the draft? Everyone. If user A goes in, edits the draft, user B logs in, he or she can also see the draft. Is it possible to use embedded CSS? I want to point out here on that question, and in general, I'm going to focus very specifically here on the interface for editing XSL and XML we're going to see, and not on different methods of configuring the XSL, conditions, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to get into the embedded CSS now or other things about what tags we can and cannot use and how to do a condition that says if this is the library, then do this. We're focusing specifically on the user interface. And I want to keep that strict because we don't have a lot of time. Or we do have a lot of time, but we want to use it specifically for the new features here. Perhaps we'll have a separate session on configuring XSLs if that's something the community wants. Okay, so someone asked, can we compare the draft and the original letter and see what changes were made? No, there's nothing in the interface to do a diff between two versions of the XSL. Okay, so let's move on now. And let's now talk about the labels. So if we come back to the letter configuration, I'm going to configuration and to general and letters configuration. And we saw that anytime there are two @ signs, let's do that. Anytime there's two @ signs in an XSL, I'm viewing this now in full screen. For example, where it says reminder message, overdue loans, this is the message overdue loans. Due date, anything that has those two @ signs, that's a label. Instead of needing to repeat fields over and over, for example, this table appears twice. So I've got title, find description here. I've got title here, and I've got in the overdue, the not overdue, this title. Actually, I can do this. This is something I didn't show. While I'm in here, I can do a Control F, which is searching only inside this XML. So for example, this title appears right here, and the title appears here. So first of all, instead of making the user go in and change the XSL, and also instead of needing to change one thing in several places, there are labels. Those use labels. So if I want to change the message for overdue loans, and I want to change the value of this due date, let's see how we do that. So first of all, let's see what it is now. For overdue loans, it states quite simply here, overdue loans. And where it states here, due date, which we made red bold, it states here, due date. Now, if I want to change that text, one option is instead of this due date here, I could type whatever I want, like return by this date. And now it's refreshing here. And now let's go see what it did. And it made it return by this date. But I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to save it. Or I can even just do a Control Z. Person who asked about undoing your changes, I just did a couple of Control Z's and I put it back to the way it was. So now if I come to the labels, I got the slide out panel. Or a lot of this new UI is using the slide out panels. If anyone was in the session yesterday on the new PO line task list, we also showed the slide out panel. So now we have both of those values here. Here's the overdue loans. So I'm going to change this. Instead of saying overdue loans, it's going to say items you have passed the due date. And we want to change where it said due date to something else. So here's the due date. And I'll say this is return by. So now I've changed two of these labels. I'll say save here. And now we should see those changes. Let's go take a look. Let's say I come in fresh, general, letters configuration, and I come to the borrowing activity letter, edit. And let's see what happened. So it changed the overdue loans. Instead of saying overdue loans, it says items you have past the due date, because that's what we changed in the label. And it also changed the word due date to return by, because that's also what we changed in the label. Okay, so that covers the XSL. Now I want to move to the XML and why that's important. Why that means anything to us. How could we use it? But let me first go see if there's anything in the chat here that we missed. No, I don't see anything else in the chat, so I will move on. Do labels change for all letters, someone asks. Every letter has its own set of labels. So when I just changed those labels, it didn't touch any other letter. If I were to go to a different letter, for example, let's go to who knows what. Actually, I have an example because I want to use an example, a different example later when we get to the components configuration. But if I were to come to, for example, the collection contribution letter. So this letter here has its own dedicated labels. So whatever is changed in the labels for one letter does not touch another letter. I saw another chat came in. Let's go take a look. Can you add new labels? No, you can't add new labels. You can change the text and add fields, remove fields, etc. But you can't add new labels. Okay, so let's now talk about the XML. And I'm going to take this XML. I can look at it in a full view here, but I'm going to take this XML and copy it to the side here to show something. So let's put it here. Here's my XML. Now, the data in here is what appears in the letter. For example, if I come and we look at this letter, let's now get out of the full screen. So, for example, I might want to see here. Oh, now I'm in the collection contribution letter. I didn't want that one. Let's go back to our letter. So we'll go to letters configuration, borrowing activity letter, the one we've been playing around with so far. Borrowing activity letter and edit. And let's take this XML. And let's put that here. Okay, so all of this is the information that appears in the actual letter. For example, if this has academic library development is the name of academic library development in Taipei. And maybe I want to see in the letter how different characters appear, or I want to test it on something with a return date in the future, or if the description had an ampersand in it. I can change around the data in the XML, and I can also take examples of actual letters which have been sent, which we're going to do shortly. So for example, somewhere in this letter will be that academic library development. Here it is. So this is what's displaying in the XML. I can change it here and do a test, or I can change it in the actual XML here. Let's change it here. So I'll make this in full screen and I'll change it here. I can do a search inside here as well, inside the XML. So I could have searched for that here as well and get it here. These are the different places. But what I find is easiest is to do a replace. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to say Control H. Anytime I have that, I want to put another language. Let's say I want to test another language. I want to see how would fonts in another language appear. I want to be in another language. Okay, I'm just writing the first 5 letters of the alphabet. That might be one example. So I'll replace them all. Now I have a new XML here. And I'll replace the XML here. So all of this XML is gone. I've got my new XML here. I'll save that new XML. And now that will be reflected already here in the letter. And we can see here. So I'm able to change the data that appears here in the letter. I happen to have a condition in my XSL, which states if we're not going to talk about how to make conditions, but I have a condition here that says if the user uses preferred language is English, then display this icon here, which is coming from an internet site. Let's get that whole one here. We're going to see how we can change the preferred language in a moment. So it's a simple condition that says if the user preferred language is English, display this icon. And that's why I have that here. And then it says if the user interface preferred language is French, then display a different one. So I'm going to go grab that one. Let's get the whole URL that I'm pointing to. So it says if the preferred language is French, then display this one. And perhaps now I want to test it. How would this appear with preferred language French without needing to go and change or find a new patron who has preferred language French and start sending it to that person? So I see the condition is that the preferred language is FR. So again, I can make the change here inside the XML. I'll say Control F, preferred language. Okay. So I'm going to change this to French. Sometimes it appears in multiple places. I'm just going to make sure I've got them all. It's not that one. It's not the user preferred language. It's just the preferred language. So I'm done. I've changed them all. I changed it one. Okay, let me make sure that's it's preferred language and not, yes, it is. It's preferred language. So now I've changed that to French. I've saved it, and we can already see here it changed the icon to the one for French. So that's the XML. Now, I can also take a user who has something on loan, send him something, all of the letters that I have sent to someone or that the system has sent, I can use those as my default XML. For example, if I come in now to fulfillment, manage patron services, and I find a patron. Let's see if this user has something on loan, Arona Cohen. And this person does have things on loan. Let's even loan him something else. Let's say there's something very specific that I want to see how it appears in the XSL. So I will search here, for example. I'll say language Chinese, for example. I believe I have examples here in Chinese. And I will loan something to the patron, and then I will see how does it appear. So I'll take this one here. Let's go to the items. It's item in place, main library, so we can loan this. I'll take this barcode, and I'll loan it to that patron. We'll say fulfillment, manage patron services, and to Arona Cohen, we will loan that. Now we can see it here. Now I'm going to say send activity report. Now, this user got the letter, got the borrowing activity letter, and I can use that XML as my example. So how do we do that? Going back to the letters, which we said at the beginning was configuration, general, letters configuration. And let's go to our borrowing activity letter. Edit. We can get the letters that have been sent by clicking here, letter examples. So I'm doing letter examples. And the one we just sent is, today is what? The 9th. It might still be the 8th, according to this. In any case, I'll choose, these are the ones that have been sent. I think this, in this environment, it's still yesterday. So it'll say 8. Oh, add from system letters. Right. Thank you, Peta. Thank you, Peta. Peta helped me out there. Let me do that again. So we'll say letter examples, and then I want to add the one that was just sent, add from system letters. These are the ones I have now. I can also change one on my PC and then upload one. We'll go to add from system letters. And the one I just sent is today. I'm an hour behind on this environment because it's in Amsterdam and I'm in Jerusalem. So it should say 6:45. Here it is, 6:43. This is the one I sent today. This is the one we sent earlier today to Alicia. This is the one I sent to Arona Cohen. And now we've added it. It's right here. I'm going to make that the default. Save, my default preview, save. Now all of my customizations here will be working with that letter. You can see here the name of the recipient has changed. And you can see here that the data has changed. And now I can see the Chinese here. That's very basic of the XML, but I could take this XML also and say download, and this will download it as a file. Then I can, let me show this in the folder and open it. Then I could open this if I want and say edit with Notepad++. And then I could start changing things around in here and upload it. For example, maybe I want to see, well, how would this appear not for the main library, but for a different library? So I'll say, I want to change anytime I have main library. And I think I'll even change it like this to make sure I get only places where it's inside tags. And I'll change that to the state library, Victoria library. And do a global change here. So now I have a new XML. Close. Let's save this file, save as, keeping that in XSL, borrowing activity letter, Victoria. Okay, it's in my downloads, save. Now I can upload this XML and use this one. So these are my XMLs, letter examples, upload letter example. I save here it is, upload. Now I have an XML that I uploaded on my own. I'll make that the default, save. And there we are. So now I can see how it appears as State Library of Victoria Library instead of the main library. Main point being, I can take the XML, save it on my PC, do whatever I want, or get it from wherever I want, and move it up. Okay, someone says very useful. Thank you, Peta, for pointing that out. Let me go back to the chats here. Peta points out that's very useful for transferring XML examples from production to sandbox. Yeah, I like it. If I'm doing a demo in one environment or a training session in one environment, I can take them and put them in all the ones I made all fancy, and I can go and put them somewhere else. Yeah, for moving from one environment to another, it's very useful. So someone asked, when you change/save the XML in the viewer, does it update the saved letter example that is currently being previewed? No. If, and I'll repeat that in other words to make sure I understood your question and make sure other people understood the answer. If I say, well, let's do a little test here. The question was, if I changed this, correct me if I'm wrong, person who asked it. I usually don't say the names of the people so that people feel comfortable asking anything with still having anonymity. So person who asked that, if we change this here, the question is, does it change the letter examples here? If I change it here and do save, yes, but let's do a little test. So now we know I'm using that one that I uploaded. So if I were to make a change here, I'll go to full screen and let's do Control F here inside. And let's get that Victoria one. And instead of State Library of Victoria, I'll say State Library. I'll get rid of the word library here. I'll State Library Victoria Library, and we'll have it multilingual, just so we have something different. Okay, now I'll save this. And let's see where else, if there's other places I need to go, changes. Okay, library name. So let's do this. We'll take this. Library name. And just to be 100% sure, I'll change that. And that we could see exactly where these are coming from. But we'll save that for a day we talk about the configurations. Okay, that's enough for our purposes. And save. So now if I come back tomorrow or in 2 seconds and I edit this, and I come to the letter examples, and I'm going to choose a different one just to refresh the system. I'll make this one here my preview. Let's add from system letters the other one I sent today, this one here. And I'll make that one the default. So that's going to be this one here. Save. Okay. So now it's back to Alicia. Now we want to go back to my XML and see, did it save the one there? Letter examples will make this one again the default. Save. And now it's back to Arona Cohen. And let's go see here. If I say Control F, yes, it did. It saves the letter in the system when I save it here and click save. Okay, one more topic. We don't have too much time. Let's just go see that chat and then we'll talk about the components configuration. So back into the chat. So the changes of XML is, someone asks, so the changes of XML is to preview or test the outcome of different conditions applied to the default example letter. That's exactly the case. The purpose of the XML is to determine what data do you want to appear in the preview while you're configuring your XSL. I also want to point out, while we're here, I'm going to send out a page because, like I said at the beginning, we're not discussing now how to make different configurations in the XSL, but rather how to use the new interface. But if someone's interested, there's a list here of all different methods of changing the XSL, how to add the expiration, how to add an image based on a condition, how to add the letter name to the bottom of the letter, how to use an if condition, all different things here. So I'm going to send this out as well. It's not related specifically to our session, but there was someone at the beginning who asked, and I apologize that we're not talking about the conditions and how to configure the XSL, but if you're interested, here's some, maybe we'll do a session just on configuring XSL one day. Okay, so we also have something called components configuration. If we were to look, for example, at different letters, like let's stay with the borrowing activity letter as one example. I'm going to go a little fast here. We have 6 minutes. So many letters call other letters. For example, the top of nearly every letter has the icon of whatever the institution loaded, the name of the letter on the left, and the date on the right. Nearly every letter has that. Also, many letters have at the bottom, this contact us here, in my account here, so a user can log in, and a banner with the name of the institution. Those are coming from these here. These include templates. For example, the header is what determines that the icon is appearing on the top left, the name of the letter is in format H1 bold, and the date is on the right. And then footer is what we saw on the bottom. In many letters, most letters, if not 99%, have a call to these other templates. So for example, if I were to look at a different letter, like, let's get out of here, and we'll look at the full overdue and lost loan notification. Oops. Full overdue and lost loan notification letter. So this one also, if we do an edit, also includes the link to the footer and link to the header. One more example, and then we're going to go see how do those play in the system. Is the system job letter. When a job runs and it gets sent to the person who sent it, system job letter. And it too has, as you see, the icon this and this, and a call to the header, a call to the footer, and the footer on the bottom. Now let's say I want to change the header for whatever reason. Maybe I want the icon in the middle, or I want the icon on the right. Who knows? So that's the components configuration that we saw at the very beginning. For example, if I come to general letters, now we're going to go to components configuration. Previously, we always worked on letters configuration. So now I'm in the components configuration, and let's go take a look at that header. Here's the header, edit. And let me make this larger so everyone can see. And let's see where the header is. Let's read it. So it says here, logo insert. And here it is, logo JPG, class align left. Let's change this. Instead of the class align left, I'm just going to write here, align equals right. Okay, that suffices. I think that's all I need to do. So now I've made a very simple change on a letter that's called by all the other letters. I'm going to say save here. Notice, by the way, here too, we can do save draft. So this is the header that's being called by at least those 3 letters that I showed a moment ago, but it's also being called by many more. Let's go back to our regular size. And now let's go see what happened. So if we come back now to the letters configuration, and we look at those letters, the borrowing activity letter just as an example, edit. And now the icon is on the right, as you see here. Let's just look at one more example to confirm that it really did occur with all of them. We'll look at the fulfillment overdue and lost loan notification that we saw a moment ago. This one here. And edit. And here's the preview. And here it is on the right. Let's now put that back. We'll go back to the components configuration. I'm just going to restore it. We said before, restore goes back to the default, the factory default, back to the out of the box. So I'm just going to say restore to its original state. Yes, I do. It was restored. Click save. So here it is now back to class align left. Save. Let's just go confirm that that really happened. Back to the letters configuration. And let's look at that borrowing activity letter. Should have the icon back to where it was. And it is. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here. Let's just see if there's any final comments in the chat here. I don't see any final comments in the chat. So we will close here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we hope to see you on our next sessions. The recording of this will be available shortly. We'll send out a message. It will be on YouTube, and it will also be on the page of the webinar series. Have a nice day.